Hey, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse.
On today's show, Tesla announces new Model S and X.
Sentry mode catches more craziness.
And how do you open the door on the next generation Roadster?
That and more next on episode 138
on Now You Know. Brought to you, as always, by our amazing Patreons and sponsored by our friends at the solar-powered hotel in Schaumburg, Illinois, the Fairfield Inn & Suites by Marriott. The Fairfield Inn & Suites is the highest-rated Marriott in the Schaumburg market and the first and only hotel in Chicago that gets a majority of its power from the sun. We're also supported today by EcoWare.us, sustainable fashion that makes a statement. As Amazon associates, we earn from qualifying purchases. All right, so get ready for the RoboTaxi, Jesse.
So this was arguably the biggest news to come out of last week's Autonomy Day, which we covered in our in-depth. And basically, Elon was discussing that Tesla was going to have an autonomous RoboTaxi network next year.
Yeah, in fact, he said there would be 1 million Tesla RoboTaxis on the road in 2020.
Now, a lot of people seem to think that that's impossible because they don't even have that many cars on the road now. How could they possibly get 1 million robotaxis? That's crazy. How could they produce 1 million in a year?
Well, it's because half the cars are already on the roads.
Right. I mean, basically all the Teslas that have been produced with Autopilot 2 hardware, they already have the cameras. All they need is a chip upgrade, and bada bing, bada boom, you got a robotaxi.
Right.
Which is kind of crazy because I just said bada bing, bada boom, now you have a robotaxi, which is, right. I mean, that's crazy because we don't have any robotaxis. It's not like that's a common occurrence.
Well, I think the hardest part, the first step for most people is imagining the disappearance of the steering wheel. That's where a lot of people seem to get hung up. They're
right.
like, well, what about the steering wheel? And here's what Elon said about that. I think there will be a transition period where people are able to take over for the robotaxi, but once regulators are comfortable with us not having a steering wheel, we will just delete that.
He said that the probability of the steering wheel being taken away is 100%. Customers will demand it.
Yeah.
Now, for I think a lot of people out there, you're saying like the steering. I don't demand that they take away the steering wheel, right. And it's a good point. But we're talking about today.
Well, I mean, yeah, his point was, he said consumers will demand that people are not allowed to drive these 2-ton death machines. It's a whole new, different way of looking at it. Right now, of course, the only way to drive a car is to have a human drive it.
Right.
But his argument is, once a computer can do it better, we're going to step back and go, oh, yeah, it's so much better. Why would we allow crazy people, ourselves, to drive a car?
And not crazy people, but drunk people. People who are bad at driving, inexperienced,
but even,
people who are texting.
Even people who are good at driving won't be able to drive as well as a computer can.
It's true, but I mean, imagine just getting rid of all the people on the roads that you're just like, what is this? You're sitting there driving and you're just like, who is this person? Why are they allowed to drive? This is ridiculous. You're like, great, now he's going to go get into an accident because he's texting or because he just has to get somewhere immediately and has to, ram people off the road.
I think it's really an important step here that we look at this picture released by Tesla, which shows a car with no steering wheel. Once we start actually imagining this future where you get in a car that you don't drive,
right.
You actually open up your imagination to allowing what's actually going to happen in our future.
And I want to talk about this picture as well because it sort of highlights the whole reason that Tesla maybe put in this big center screen in landscape. Whereas the Model S, of course, and X had the sort of portrait mode screen. This one is sideways. It's kind of like the perfect aspect ratio to like watch movies on or to do basically anything else. It's just a big iPad in the front of your car. And people are like, it's going to be distracting when you're driving. It's like, oh, well, the car isn't going to, you're not going to be driving the car for much longer, buddy.
All right, so the earnings report, big news, but we're covering it tomorrow in depth. So if you want to hear
time to talk about
everything that came out in that, and there's a lot, head over to In-Depth tomorrow. So last Tuesday, Tesla released a new longer-range Model S and X with new drivetrains.
Okay, so let's talk about this. So, I mean, everyone has been waiting from Model S and X refresh.
Yeah, so this isn't technically, I guess, a refresh because nothing has changed inside the car in terms of the looks of the interior. But they took the rear Model 3 permanent magnet synchronous reluctance motor and they slightly redesigned it and they put it in the front of the S and the X, which gives them what?
It gives them better efficiency. The Model 3 has a very efficient motor. The permanent magnet motors are a lot more efficient than the Model S and X motors. Those aren't permanent magnets. Those are induction motors, which means that there are no magnets. It basically just uses electricity to create two electromagnets well, more than that, but
Right.
Use electromagnets almost entirely. So switching to the permanent magnet motors means that they're going to have more efficiency, which means that they get to increase the range of the S and the X without increasing the battery pack of the car.
Tesla said the net effect is more than a 10% improvement in range with efficiency improvements in both directions as energy flows out of the battery during acceleration and back into the battery through regenerative braking. In addition to adding range, power and torque increases significantly across Model S and X variants, improving 0 to 60 times for our long range and standard range models.
So now the long range version of the Model S gets 370 miles of range.
Yeah.
370 miles of range. Now, when we're talking about some other electric cars, we're like, 200.
Pretty good.
That's pretty good. 370 miles?
I know.
That's like from LA to San Francisco.
Yeah, Motor Trend tested it and it worked.
So, I mean, there have always been these people like, there's not enough range in those batteries. You can't drive it very far. Those people,
they're wrong.
They're completely, and the Model X is up to 325 miles of range.
And that's real. That's EPA cycle range. So that's
right.
You can trust that. And those two variants are still using the 100 kilowatt hour battery pack.
So that's huge.
But now, check this out.
Yeah.
Tesla is now bringing back a standard range option for both vehicles. This is an option that's been kind of on and off again in the configurator for the past year. So now for Model S, you'll be able to get the standard range for 78,000, and it offers a range of 285 miles. And the Model X will start at 83,000 with a range of 250 miles.
Right. This
that's big news.
This is big news, yeah, because all of quarter one, they didn't have the standard range Model S and Model X's,
right.
So you had to get very expensive Model S's or Model X's if you wanted to get one at all,
right?
Which is kind of why we saw such a drop.
Yeah,
and we'll talk about this in depth, but basically, we saw a huge drop in the Model S and Model X sales, and everyone was like, "Oh, demand is going down." It's like, no, people
they took a car away,
right? They basically were like, "Oh, the $78,000 Model S, well, that's gone now. Now you can only buy like $90,000 Model S."
Yeah,
and people were like, "Oh, well, I'll just get a Model 3."
Exactly. So Tesla said, paired with the new, more efficient drivetrain design, Model S and X are now capable of achieving 200 kilowatts on version 3 supercharging and 145 kilowatts on version 2 superchargers. Together, these improvements enable our customers to recharge their miles 50% faster.
And this is a really important point. The more efficient you make a vehicle, the faster it charges. Now, you might be saying, no, Jesse, it charges as fast as you put the electricity in. But if you can get more distance out of a particular amount of energy, let's say we had a car that could travel 1,000 miles on 1 kilowatt hour of energy, which, of course, is impossible. But say you could do it, if you were to plug into a 110 outlet, you'd be getting hundreds of miles an hour of charge. So by increasing the efficiency of the Model S and X, not only are they increasing the range without needing to increase the battery pack, which is important for weight reasons, but most importantly, I think here, is that you're going to be able to charge faster. Basically, you're going to get more miles per minute at a supercharger, which means that you're going to be able to continue your journey faster. And we've seen this with the Model 3. The 145 kilowatt charging speed of a supercharger on a Model 3 is like 500, almost 600 miles an hour, which is more than you'd get on a Model X or X just because it's been more efficient. Now that the Model S and X are becoming more efficient, I don't know. I think that it's creating a much more compelling car than even it was before. And I think that the efficiency thing here is a huge lead over competitors. I say competitors, but the e-tron and the I-Pace, they have large battery packs, which is great, which means that they can get pretty decent ranges, but they're not very efficient, which means that you have this huge battery pack that you have to charge up, but it's not going to get you as far as a Model S or a Model X. And that requires that you need a much higher charging rate in order to get a pretty decent, speed. And of course, the e-tron and the I-Pace are able to charge a little bit higher than the Model S and X, but that could be harming the batteries, and we just don't know it yet.
Right.
And of course, we don't know it yet. I just want to reiterate that point.
So Tesla says, we've also upgraded our air suspension system for Model S and Model X with fully adaptive damping, giving it an ultra-cushioned feel when cruising on the highway or using autopilot, and a responsive, exhilarating confidence during dynamic driving. And get this, that's the hardware part, but Tesla's going to be able to do over-the-air updates that'll continually improve that feature.
That's really cool to think that your suspension could get better dampened over time. So Tesla continues, they said, to complement these changes, we've also re-engineered several other components of Model S and Model X in keeping with our philosophy of continuous improvement. These updates include new wheel bearings and a few new tire designs for certain variants to improve range, ride, and steering. Now, I think probably the most important thing here is new wheel bearings.
Why?
That is a huge efficiency boon. If they've switched over to some more efficient wheel bearing, that means, that is where you can lose a lot of your energy is in the wheel bearing, because that is basically what's, keeping your car afloat, so to speak, while also transitioning power through it. So that's a huge, friction point. Any friction you can reduce there is going to be a huge range gain.
And then finally, Tesla says that they're going to be offering existing free ludicrous mode upgrade worth $20,000 to any existing Model S and X owners willing to upgrade to a new Model S or X with the premium package.
So I think that this is all huge stuff. This is stuff that is really going to make the Model S and X more compelling. Having a much bigger range than you can even get with the Model 3.
But I think the big question is, do you think this will get people off the fence if they were thinking, I'm waiting for the refresh? Do you think this is enough of a refresh to get them to purchase, or do you think they'll just keep waiting because we all kind of know that there's got to be some kind of interior refresh coming?
I think that there does have to be a refresh coming. I think what it's going to be is it's going to look a lot like a Model 3 on the inside, because I think it's going to be kind of a RoboTaxi update. And I don't think a lot of Model S and X owners are really going to want that, because they very much like their luxury car kind of feel. So I think this is kind of the car that you're going to want. But everyone, of course, is a human, and most humans are pretty irrational, and we judge appearances more than anything else. I mean, you don't see the motors, you don't see the wheel bearings. You might be able to feel the added torque and performance, which is crazy.
But you will be able to feel it.
I mean, and that isn't necessarily for the performance models, but for the non-performance models, you're going to be able to feel it. So that's great.
But I mean, how many people do you think are going to just get excited about this $20,000 free ludicrous mode?
I think a lot. I think that a lot of people are going to be like, gee, I always wished there was always this gut feeling in the back of my gut that I was like, man, I wish I had spent that extra 20 grand on ludicrous mode. They weren't like, I wish I spent that much, but they wish they had it. Or they were like, man, if I just upgrade to the performance, sell my Model S. Luckily, it's retained a lot of value.
Right.
I could get myself in a brand new Model S with ludicrous mode, which is the top of the tippity tip top.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting a lot of extra value to the resale value of the car.
Now, one thing that I wish that they had covered, that they had talked about, that they had fixed would be noise dampening. A lot of people are testing out the Audi e-tron, and a lot of people are very impressed with the noise dampening that they're able to do. It's a very quiet interior. I mean, as it should be, it's an electric car, but for the Model S and the Model X, there are issues with, hearing road noise, either from the wheel wells or from just wind noise in general. And it's not terrible. No. It's quieter than practically any other car. But I think that if they were just like, hey, we've made the interior feel like a complete luxury car now.
Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot of expense in dampening the sound. I mean, it's better gaskets around a lot of the windows and doors, and it's some better dampening around the wheel wells, and I think you'd have a much quieter car.
Right.
So Tesla owner Magical posted this video on Reddit of his car in New York City being used as a photo stage.
Let me get this straight. So this lady...
Yeah, this is a stranger to him.
Right. Just a stranger on the street walks up to his car.
Ooh, a Tesla!
Right. Is it because it's a Tesla, or just because it's any car?
I think it's because it's a Tesla.
So she puts the bunny stuffed animal on the trunk.
Yep.
On the front.
Oh, and then she picks up her dog and puts
then
it on the trunk.
The dog.
On the front.
Right. Rude.
Totally rude.
I mean,
Okay,
right.
so let's point this out. This all got caught on video because of Sentry mode.
Right. So, I mean, this has probably always been happening. Well,
Right.
I guess not. I mean, there hasn't been Instagram for 100 years.
But there's been photographs.
But, I mean, there's always been crazy stuff that's been happening to your car as
You just don't know about
left it. And you just don't know about it. Right. But, we've never had the technology. Well, I mean, we've had dash cams and stuff like that, but now you finally have a car with a huge battery, so it's not like you're going to run out of battery juice.
And it only records when something interesting happens.
Exactly. But what I think should happen is there should be a speaker on the outside of the car that should just be like, hey, what do you think you're doing? Get away from my car.
I love that idea.
It wouldn't be that hard to implement.
No.
I mean, and it could be the interior speaker. You could just crack the window and be like, hey, get out of here. Shoo, scram.
I love
I'm going to call the police. Get out of here,
Could it have like a 50s voice like, hey, you, take off, rapscallion?
No, I mean, it should just sound like a person just so that it catches them off guard. And
I think you should have
flee.
modes that you can choose.
Sure.
Maybe you could have a Darth Vader
You
mode.
could record your own voice or something like that. Or it could just, blip your app and you go like, oh, what's going on? And you're like,
oh, and it
who's
shows
taking
you.
it? Hey, get away from my car.
I like it.
I'm going to run you over, lady.
Summon.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it should, we have the technology to do this.
Let's use it.
Let's do it.
Hey, coming up on our Patreon bonus stories, we have another Sentry mode caught on video. We'll show you that later.
Mm-hmm.
So the SEC agreement has finally been signed by the judge, and basically the way that most media has presented it is that Elon now is kind of muzzled. He can only say things
according to this list of things that he's allowed to say and not say.
This tweet from Alex Avoit really kind of sums up how I feel about this. Elon won. Basically, he said that's a 100% win for Elon and humiliation for the SEC. They pulled back on all demands. Elon has to comply with the rules that Tesla sets, which are set by Elon, and that if he does announce something that has not been released before, he needs to seek approval from someone he appoints.
Right. So for those of you who don't know, there's like a whole list of boring legal jargon, and we were going to sit here and be like, the plaintiff agrees to the we're just going to sit here and read you a bunch of legal jargon. We decided that was going to be too boring. You can go look it up if you want to. It's a great sedative. So maybe later tonight when you're ready for bed. But basically what it comes down to is that Elon can't talk about certain things on Twitter unless he seeks guidance from someone at Tesla whom he appoints.
Right. And the list of things that he can't talk about are a list that Tesla comes up with, which he made.
Right. Which is...
He won.
And that's what the SEC...
Do you realize that months of FUD storming about this?
Right.
And then when it quietly ends with a whimper,
right.
The news media doesn't go, oh, we were wrong.
Right. And I mean, I wish that it was some sort of like bombastic ending to this saga of just utter ridiculousness. Yes. But it's just this boring legal ending to what was kind of just a joke to begin with.
So Ford now invests in Rivian.
Yeah, $500 million. So Amazon already invested $700 million in Rivian.
Yep, so now Ford has confirmed that it will use Rivian's electric platform to develop a Ford-branded all-electric vehicle.
So Ford basically just bought the tech from Rivian for $500 million.
Way too cheap.
Totally too cheap. I mean, Rivian's sitting there with a fantastic skateboard design that would be perfect for any truck with 4 motors.
Yep.
I mean, it's just a beautiful designed truck in general, but I mean, the skateboard is fantastic, and they sell it for $500 million. That's it?
Yeah, and not only that, Jim Hackett, CEO of Ford, said that the automaker will take some of the production capacity at Rivian's Illinois factory, which the startup claims can produce up to 250,000 vehicles per year.
So Ford also got factory space.
Right.
So for $500 million.
They got such cheap... that was the best investment ever from Ford's perspective,
right.
Because they were sitting around going, oh my God, how are we going to make an electric truck? And along comes Rivian.
Just drives up and they're like, oh, how about that one?
Can we buy it?
Right.
That shows you Ford can't do anything themselves. They can buy stuff.
But I mean, good on Ford.
Yeah.
Good on Ford. This is a great jump into the world of electric vehicles. You bought a startup. I mean, of course, no one has owned a Rivian and has driven it around and been like, this truck's awesome. So we don't know necessarily if the skateboard is going to hold up. I assume that they've done plenty of testing. I assume that it's going to be great. And it's great that Ford is actually going to use it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great. Because, I mean, if it was just Rivian would have to do all of this ramping up. It would kind of be like if Ford had bought Tesla early on and we're like, oh, whatever you guys are doing, well, we'll take this Model S skateboard and
just put our
make
name on
a
it.
Ford Lightning, you know? And it would be great. I mean, that would be wonderful if they had done that freaking 9 years ago. That would have been awesome. But they didn't. And so now, basically, now we get it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe.
I think Rivian sold too cheap on that one.
They did sell too cheap, but I mean, honestly, in the end, I think it's going to have a positive ending, hopefully.
Hopefully.
For the planet and for all of us.
So remember when the Supercharger version 3 news came out and Tesla was talking about how regular superchargers would be able to pump out more juice? They said they'd be able to increase from 120 kilowatts to 145 kilowatts. Well, now Tesla says, according to Electrek, that they will be able to pump out even more, 150 kilowatts, and that new software update en route battery warm-up has just started getting pushed to Model S's and X's with 100 kilowatt hour battery packs and the Model 3 long range.
And that should reduce supercharging times by up to 25%. So en route battery warm-up.
Yeah, can we stop there? We need an acronym, I think. It's too long to say that.
Okay, en route battery warm-up. So that'll be
ORB. Orb. Oh, there's a W.
Orb W.
Orb.
Orb W. Bingo.
Somebody come up with a better acronym.
But, I mean, warming up before you get to the supercharger makes a huge difference.
This is a huge news. I don't think most people think it's very sexy because it's under the hood. You don't really think about it. But when you get to a supercharger, if your battery is warm, you charge so much faster. And normally you have to do that yourself. You have to drive like a crazy person, accelerating, braking, so that you get there with a warm battery. The problem with the Model 3 especially is it's so efficient that you can't warm it up.
Right. You need inefficiency to warm up the battery, basically. And luckily what this is going to do is it's going to do it for you.
Yeah.
Without crazy
Without
driving.
any thinking. So, you know, when you're talking to somebody in the office, let's say, about how the world should get all of its energy from renewables, and then they totally shut you down with something like, well, that could never happen.
Yeah, oh, you can't. Oh, the amount of solar would bankrupt the entire world.
It's not physically or economically possible.
Oh, wind. If you put up too many wind things, then all the wind stops.
And then you're like, well, it is possible.
Right. It's definitely possible.
Well, now you can share with them this 300-page, 4-year study from 14 scientists from the Finnish-based LUT University and German-based Energy Watch Group that states,
a global transition to 100% renewable energy across all sectors, power, heat, transport, and desalination before 2050 is feasible.
Not only that, the authors say it could be done quicker than that. Existing renewable energy potential and technologies, including storage, is capable of generating a secure energy supply at every hour throughout the year. The sustainable energy system is more efficient and cost-effective than the existing system. The energy transition is not a question of technical feasibility or economic viability, but one of political will. A lot of people say, well, the electricity system, what would it be like? Still 3% solar? Check this out. This is what they imagine the future of electricity could be. 69% solar, 18% wind, 3% hydro, 6% bioenergy, and geothermal at 2%. So just point them to this report the next time you're having that little discussion at work. Say, electricity will be all green soon. And you're wrong, Janice. Jesse.
Yeah.
Is this a bike or a moped?
That's a moped.
But it's got pedals.
Wait, it's got pedals?
Yeah, see those little pedals?
Why does it have pedals?
So Xiaomi, I think, kept the pedals there because technically if you keep the pedals, then it's an e-bike, which means you don't have to have all the licensing of a moped.
Okay, what is this?
So this is the Xiaomi Himo T1, and it's coming out in China in June. And the reason we put it on the show is, I know it looks a little boring for an electric vehicle. It can only go probably about 15 miles an hour. At its top speed, it's got a decent range. It's got 60 kilometers or 37 miles of range on a 350 watt on its rear motor. But I think the exciting news for me is the price. It's only going to cost $450.
That's okay. That's something where you could definitely get into because that costs about the same as an electric scooter, and it has roughly the same specs as an electric scooter that you could buy for roughly the same price.
And I know you can buy an electric bike. There's tons of them on the market. But for me, and I think a lot of other people, riding an electric bike means that your body is doing this.
Right. You're in bike mode, it's not necessarily comfortable for some people.
Whereas these moped style, you're just sitting there kind of in a very comfortable position.
Right. And another interesting thing is there is a bigger battery option for a 120 kilometer or 75-mile range, which I can tell you from driving Leaf is just plenty.
Yeah. This fits really well into this next story. So we just got back from London, and I really got to say to London, come on, your air quality is atrocious. And there were climate protests going on throughout the city even while we were there. And the mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, he just said on Twitter, update, my message to all the climate change protesters today is clear. Let London return to business as usual.
Wow.
Now, I know that they were tying up some traffic in certain parts of the city and slowing down the airport. But you know what? There's not going to be any business as usual going forward anywhere in the world because of climate change.
Right.
So I know it was a little pain in the neck for you, but if it raised awareness about climate change and caused something to happen in your city, which needs to happen, then it's definitely worth it.
Right.
And that fits into the previous story about the mopeds. What if the mayor had said, yes, you're right, we need to do something, and let's start subsidizing the use of electric mopeds in the city? Because while we were there in the city, we saw too many cars trying to fit
Constantly.
Yeah, and too many smelly cars. I mean, there was practically no electric cars.
I counted maybe, I don't know, 10, and we were there for a whole week. And the other thing is, we did see something that did catch my interest was that there were a lot of motorcycles doing deliveries, food deliveries, Uber Eats. So you'd have all these motorbikes just, zooming through traffic, which is... well, I mean, it's a little scary for drivers, and I'm sure it's scary for the motorcyclists, but they're getting to where they need to go a lot faster than the cars can. If those were electric, it'd be way cheaper than to buy a car that was fully electric, or even just a car in general.
And I mean, we saw that London has ULEZ, which is the ultra low emission zone, which is charging extra money to cars to be in that zone. What the part that's missing from that plan, I think, is they should be talking about where that money's going.
Right.
That money should be going to subsidize electric vehicles.
And it didn't feel like an ultra low emission zone. There were plenty of diesel cars there. I mean, it's one thing to charge 11 pounds or something a day, and that is, like $15 a day to drive in a city. Oh, that is pretty substantial. But if you're an Uber driver or if you're a delivery truck, you just eat that.
Yeah.
That's just, okay, fine. Cost of doing business.
Right.
Continue business as usual.
Exactly.
When we were in LA, of course, they have the Bird and Lime scooters freaking everywhere, littering the city. From a perspective of using the scooters to get around, it's fantastic. I mean, there's really a lot of lanes for bikes and scooters. And, we're able to zip around the city pretty quickly.
Well, in London, the stated speed limit for most of the city is 20 miles an hour.
Right.
So cars can't move that fast either.
Right. So if a city were to get ahead of this and to be like, okay, before Bird and Lime come and just dump scooters all over our sidewalks, if we were to put together a plan of like, hey, Londoners or, St. Louis people, I don't know what the term is for that, people who live in St. Louis or any city, basically, where it could be feasible to travel by scooter, we're going to subsidize you buying a scooter. We'll pay for half of it, and it would cost them, like a couple $100 per person.
So you're suggesting ownership?
Yes, because I think if you own a scooter, it's much less likely that you're just going to leave it on the sidewalk for someone to get, to trip over it. They're not going to be ending up in the bottom of bodies of water because you're not going to throw your own scooter over the side. You paid money for it. Whereas with the rentals, it's just like, no one's going to catch me.
I don't know. I mean, we've used the rental system a lot, like when we're in LA, and it works really well.
Yes, but I mean, there are also like trash cans full of just scooters that someone decided to smash on the sidewalk,
I guess.
And I mean, that's also an LA kind of problem. But I think by, getting ahead of it, having scooter ownership, it means that the scooters don't end up on the sidewalks.
Yeah.
It also means that, people are going to be riding them more frequently because they've invested in it. And if you can take a car off the road for every scooter that you're introducing, and maybe we don't have the proper scooter design yet. I mean, a lot of these things would only work in really good weather. I think you might need it covered.
And yeah, I mean, and you're saying scooter, but are you meaning these mopeds?
I'm saying, something along the lines of these mopeds, maybe a little beefier, a little more expensive, around the maybe $1,000. sector. You know, so like $1,000 for something that's maybe covered, has a little bit more power, maybe a 500 or 1 kilowatt motor.
And a removable battery. That would solve all of the problems, I think.
I think that would be a very strong contender for this. And then if the city were like, and we're going to be, making some bike lanes.
And I think the one thing I learned from London was
Yeah.
reduce your city speeds. Almost everyone in London followed that 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, and it really did make things a lot safer, I felt.
Yeah.
Rather than being in cities where everyone's just trying to rip down the street.
It's true. And the one time we did see someone rip down the street, they smashed into a car.
That's
you
right.
know. But, and that's, I think, and the other point is to just not have diesels on the road.
Yeah.
I mean, just ban them. They are disgusting.
All right, it's time for the lightning round.
Go.
So right-hand drive variants of the Model 3 are coming next week, according to Elon.
So Elon tweeted, UK Model 3 order page goes live next week, followed shortly thereafter by Japan, Australia, New Zealand, and Hong Kong.
Yeah, he said it should happen around May 1st or May 2nd for the UK.
The UK was Tesla's third biggest market in Europe last year. And it's interesting to note that the dash is the same on both sides. Tesla just needs to switch the steering column and the glove box.
Pretty easy change.
Fun news for those of you in the UK.
Raghu Konka was driving with his family in his car on the highway near Renton, Washington, when this happened. He said, I was on autopilot. It detected early and accelerated away to the next lane. I also reacted, but no way could have avoided the crash without the help of autopilot. My Model 3 saved my family from a crash today. A pickup in my right lane suddenly jumped into my lane, and see how this guy reacted? It is amazing, Tesla. Can't thank you enough, Elon. Yeah, do you think you would have reacted in time?
I think I probably could have reacted in time. But yeah, I mean, this is the case where, like, what if you weren't paying attention?
Yeah, and this is one of those things where unless you almost get into an accident, you can't tell your friends how the Tesla reacted like this. It's a once in a blue moon kind of thing. So this does happen. The car is actually ready to take over when someone gets into your lane. It's just we can't prove it every day when we're driving.
Right.
Hey, Jesse, check out this new electric hypercar by Mullen.
Look at that thing. Mullen,
Yeah.
I've never heard of it. But I mean, look at that.
You wanna-
That looks so fast.
You want to hear the
That's awesome.
specs?
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
0 to 60?
Yep.
4.2 seconds.
What?
Range, 200 miles.
Wait a
And
minute.
get this, Jesse, the price, $125,000 to $150,000.
What? That's not a hypercar.
It's a hyped car.
A Model S will go faster for half the price and have almost double the range.
Yep. Yep, this is the K50, and it will go on sale in the first half of 2020. They'll have 1,000 limited edition models that you can put your money down on. But the latest release says it will hit the roads in the second half of next year. So actually, it's not going to come out in the first half of 2020. It's got electrically limited maximum speed of 125 miles an hour. And the car's two motors can generate 430 horsepower. So Basel, Switzerland announced last year that they would be replacing 7 diesel police cruisers with Tesla Model X 100Ds. They cost about $48,000 more each, but they said they are a better value because of, quote, significantly lower costs for operation and maintenance and a higher resale value.
So 3 Teslas are now in operation, with 4 more coming by the end of the year, making it the largest Tesla police patrol vehicle fleet in the world.
I think we can beat this. I mean, come on, cities out there. Don't-
7?
Just,
You think you
just
could-
buy 8 cars and you are going to
Right.
become the biggest Tesla fleet in the world.
And I mean, I think that, again, we had a whole episode talking about Tesla police cars, which you should go watch. We'll put
Yeah.
a little card.
Right here.
I don't know where it goes.
This is another one of those things that came out during their earnings call that no one really, I think, caught on. This is that Tesla is going to have Tesla insurance. In fact, Speedy tweeted at Elon. He said, hey, Elon, is there anything you can do to help with UK's car insurance situation? For Model S, I have only been able to receive one quote, which is for £20,000 a year. Other companies won't even give me a quote at all. Young drivers across the UK suffer so much. Elon said,
We're working on it. Takes time to get all regulatory approvals. Almost there for the larger U.S. states. At least 6 to 12 months for Europe/UK.
So at the earnings call, all we heard was doom and gloom, bad earnings, blah, blah, blah. Tesla's now not only going to be a battery storage company, an RoboTaxi company, and all that stuff. It's going to be an insurance company.
Right. Talk about vertical integration. So Tesla's plan is basically to have their own insurance. So you don't necessarily have to go out to another insurance company.
Right.
And the reason that they're going to do this is that they're going to have lower rates because their cars are safer.
And get this, they're going to have better data than any insurance company I can think of on the planet because they will have actual data coming from each car. So let's say you're a really good driver, right? You're going to pay a lot to cover all the bad drivers in your group. Whereas with Tesla insurance, it's going to know how I drive and charge me a premium based on me.
We don't know if that's true.
Well, it's possible to do.
It could be possible to do. I don't think a lot of drivers are going to want that.
I'd want it. I'm a good driver.
Right. I think some drivers might want that, but other drivers are not going to want that.
The other point that's important here is that when Tesla does turn on its RoboTaxi network, every car is going to have to be insured to be on the road. And so if they had to go to outside insurers, they could get charged quite a bit because, again, they would be pooling the numbers. They would be saying, well, you Tesla, you're just the same as that car over there. This ensures that Tesla will have insurance for its RoboTaxi network.
Right. So on top of all of this, just in case you thought Elon Musk had too much on his plate,
He does.
today, the Federal Communications Commission, or FCC, approved SpaceX's request to fly more than 1,500 of its Starlink satellites at an altitude of 550 kilometers. SpaceX is targeting no earlier than May for a launch of a Starlink mission. So for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, Starlink is this idea where you're going to have internet provided by satellite across the globe.
Yep.
And SpaceX is going to do it.
Yeah, there's only 2 or 3 companies working on it right now, and SpaceX is one of them.
And I think that they're probably the one that's closest in the lead.
They could be, yeah, because last year SpaceX became the first U.S.-based company to be licensed by the FCC to operate a constellation of more than 11,000 satellites.
So here's another point that I think got missed during Tesla's Autonomy Day last Monday, because so many things came out to talk about. You know, a lot of people were just focused on the hardware, but one thing that probably missed everyone's attention was Tesla's 1,000,000-mile battery.
Yeah, Elon said the new battery pack that is probably going to production next year is designed explicitly for 1,000,000 miles of operation.
So this is going to be for the RoboTaxis. We know that the drivetrain and the car itself is already designed for 1,000,000 miles. So it's designed like a semi-tractor trailer truck in that it is designed for distance. It is designed to go 1,000,000 miles.
And I just want to argue, if you look at Tesloop's numbers, that's the taxi company that goes between LA and Las Vegas, they have a car that's gone 460,000 miles on the original battery, and it's still doing fine. So it's not even like they have to do that much to get it to 1,000,000 miles.
Right.
And this new Maxwell Technologies purchase that they made is probably giving them the tech that they're going to be able to do, because adding a few supercapacitors so that it lightens the load on the cycles, probably that's all it's going to take. So the next generation Roadster was on display at the Tesla Autonomy Day last week, and Hamid Shoji shot a video showing how the door operates. I didn't know this before, Jesse. Check this out. So you swipe down on the B pillar in that little spot there, and the door unlocks. Now, he hopped in the car, and he was able to show us what the rear seats are going to look like, because remember, it actually seats 4 of this Roadster if you want it to. Now, are you going to get the rear seat edition, you think, or do you want the SpaceX package?
I mean, so it's kind of a trade-off. Like I would love the 4-seat option because then you can fit more people in the car. They don't look terribly comfortable.
No.
It looks like it'd be better for kids, but I don't know why any kid would need to go in a hypercar. So I think it would be better to get the SpaceX package.
Yeah. So Nevada and Washington have become the 4th and 5th states to sign into law 100% carbon-free electricity goals. Nevada aims to have 50% renewable electricity by 2030 and 100% carbon-free electricity by 2050.
So Washington's law says it is the policy of the state to eliminate coal-fired electricity, transition the state's electricity supply to 100% carbon neutral by 2030, and 100% carbon-free by 2045.
Washington's legislation requires the state to completely do away with coal power by the end of 2025.
Right.
It's only 6 years away.
I think it's interesting. These are 2 fairly different states in terms of climate. Nevada is very easy to do renewable energy because it's just pop down some solar panels.
Well, why do you think all of a sudden they're doing these big movements to renewable?
You think Nevada specifically?
Yeah.
I think because Tesla is there.
Yeah.
So Tesla is right in Reno, and I think that has to be influencing people to be like, wow, look at the future. It's right here on our doorstep. We should be embracing it.
Yeah.
Because this is a state that I don't think would normally be going in this direction. They're not a terribly ecological kind of state.
Yeah, but now so many more workers are becoming residents of the state, so probably changing the political power. All right, it's time for our video contributor stories, and I want to put a big plug here to anyone who'd like to send us a story, because we've kind of whittled through many of them over the weeks,
and we're running on fumes.
Yeah, so I mean, if you have some story in your neck of the woods that you think is interesting about EVs, sustainability, anything,
just
send it to us.
pull out your phone. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't need to be
it doesn't need to be as well done as Patrick's is.
Yes.
So today we've got Patrick from My Electric Earth, a really cool YouTube channel, so you should go check that out. Here's Patrick.
Air transport is an example of an innovation that humans have developed and the rich part of the world have completely embraced. I fully understand this. The time factor is dramatic comparing to all other alternatives. It's an amazing innovation. Look at any point given on the flight tracking website Flightradar24. How many planes are flying right now in the world? The demand for this time-efficient transport system is huge, so we humans will not give up this innovation. That goes for cars too. It's a very important innovation for our society. We will not return to horses. But the difference between planes and cars is that the innovation of zero-emission cars has been made, and we have the solution in front of our eyes. So can the technical innovation save us from global warming? When our society is so depending on cheap fossil energy that made a technical evolution during the last 200 years possible, and we do not accept to give it up, do we have a choice? This is not an easy situation, but we have to stop using the unsustainable sources, accelerate the change, and encourage the behavior of a sustainable future so we can avoid an environment collapse of our society.
Thank you, Patrick.
I know how much work that took.
Yeah.
Like getting those many shots, I mean, of so many different forms of transportation. You went from plane to, what was that, a cart? Horse-drawn
and you
cart.
got a shot of a plane flying over your Model 3. Awesome.
Fantastic work.
All right, it's time for our Patreon bonus stories. Now, a lot of you are new viewers and you may not know what we're talking about. If you go support us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month, you get to see all of our Patreon bonus stories.
Every week.
Yeah, and we're about to go shoot like 7 today or something. So head on over there, support us for as little as $1 a month, and you'll get all those bonus stories.
And keep in mind, it's every week, and you pay monthly. So it's like a quarter of Patreon bonus stories, and then there's multiple. So it's worth it. Just trust me, it's worth it. Support us on Patreon, and then you're part of our awesome Patreon community of people. It's great. And we have lots of other perks there, too, including this cool mug, which you could go check out.
All right, we're back from our Patreon bonus stories, and it's time for our Patreon shout-outs.
That was a long
one.
I think it was making up for last week.
All right, it's time for the shout-outs, and these
do
are
it.
people that give $5 or more a month to support the show. They're fantastic people. Who do we got this week, Jess?
Nicked.
Denny M. Mellinson.
John Eller.
Dave Clark.
Robin Burrows Ownby.
Steve F. Schluter.
Kevin Bro.
Cameron Clark.
Charlie and Will Ball.
David and Di Smith.
Paul Muleblock.
Ken McKenzie.
Roman Kervin.
Kim Go.
David and Sarah Delgado.
Ronnie Warzenitz.
Alfred Freeman.
Ashcock K. Vash.
Christopher Kinsey.
And Hervé Fache.
Thank you so much for supporting us on Patreon. We can't do this show without any of these people, and we're so glad that their names are now finally on the credits at the end of the show.
That's right. All right, it's time for Elon's tweets of the week. We got 3 this week. So the first one is Elon retweeted this from Tesla, but I think it bears reminding. Here are some of the updates that we've come to know and love in Teslas. This is from a USA Today article, and so I'll just sum up some of them in there. Summon, stoplight warning, remote heating, navigate on autopilot, obstacle-aware acceleration.
Valet mode, dash cam, Sentry mode, chill mode, dog mode, Back to the Future, romance mode, Tesla Atari, Fart Mode, Santa Mode, and the Model X Holiday Show.
Yeah, I mean, these aren't even all of them. Now, this tweet from Elon that says, "Great work by Tesla China team and supporting contractors," you might think it's just a lame little tweet. The article he's referring to from Inside EVs basically was talking about the fact that Shanghai Gigafactory could be capping in May. What does that mean?
Capping means that they're putting the roof on top of it.
Yeah, so it doesn't mean it's done, but it's a large state of completion.
Right. And I mean, this has been really fast. I mean, we've only been seeing it, it was a muddy field like a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And now they're practically putting the roof on it. So, I mean, they could be
breaking construction records that have been set in China before. Like this could be the fastest factory ever built.
It's amazing.
Yeah. All right. Now, is Elon trolling Dwight? So a few days ago, Rainn Wilson, who's the actor who played Dwight Schrute on The Office, he tweeted to Elon an idea for a quiet electric leaf blower. Mm-hmm. And basically, Elon then a few days later tweeted that he was going to make a quiet electric leaf blower. And Rainn Wilson was like, could you at least credit me on the idea? So he tweeted to Elon. He said, "Come on, Musk, give me some credit." And Elon said, nope. He's trolling Dwight Schrute, because remember, Jim in The Office always does things to Dwight that is, trolling him. I think that's all that Elon's doing here. I don't think he's picking on the actual actor Rainn Wilson.
Okay, but I mean, also he said that they're going to make an electric leaf blower.
Community mail time. All right, it's time for community mail time. We got a lot this week. So May 19th is Tesla's 11th year in business, but it's also due for a Death Day celebration. So Zachary Shahan from Clean Technica is organizing a worldwide Tesla Death Day celebration to celebrate the not Death Day of Tesla, as has been predicted by many, many times. So you can go to the spreadsheet here and either find an event or start your own event. It can be small, it can be silly, it can be big, it can be a road trip or a ride along or a party, whatever. Just share it and let's celebrate Tesla being alive and well and making safe, clean, fun cars for everyone.
Interesting.
Our friend Kevin was visiting Breckenridge EV event last Wednesday when he met Dale on this Proterra bus. And Dale seemed to know just like everything about this electric bus. So guess what?
What?
Turns out Dale is the founder of Proterra.
Oh.
And it was his birthday the other day, so happy birthday, Dale. Thank you for such an amazing company. And we're trying to reach out now to Dale and get an interview because we want to be able to share.
I want a Proterra bus.
Yes. So our friend Damien has an autopilot idea that he tweeted at Elon. He said, "Elon, have you thought about putting a green LED facing backward to let police and other drivers know when the car is driving autonomously, so police don't try to pull over a car that has no driver eventually, and similarly, they do not book people for drunk driving?"
I think this is a bad idea on multiple reasons.
Oh, okay, bye.
First of all, it's a little indicator to say, mess with me, to other drivers who might be like, I wish I had a autopilot, but I can't emotionally do that, express that in a positive way. So I'm going to run this car off the road or do something crazy.
Okay.
And then letting police know to not pull over the car. That's not... No police officer is going to be like, oh, well, but it's got the little green light. And then, hello, you can just put a little green light on the back of your car, and now you won't get pulled over by police.
So you're a no on that.
Come on. I mean, I don't want to be negative, but I can just immediately just pull out of my hat a bunch of different reasons why it's not the best idea in the world. But it's interesting, and it's on the right path towards a thought process that we need to be working on.
Exactly. He's thinking about it. So a friend of ours was riding in a taxi in Stockholm, Sweden last week, a new Audi ICE car that the taxi owner was obviously very proud of. When our friend asked the driver if he had considered buying a Tesla, he responded that he would have, but it takes about 2 years to get a Tesla in Europe. So it turned out that the taxi owner last got that information years ago when it did take that long. So my friend informed him that he could get a Tesla in about a week and that he would save tons of money on maintenance and fuel. So after this long ride, the taxi owner said he would look into returning his Audi and check out a Tesla instead. He also said that someone from Tesla should attend the quarterly Stockholm Taxi Association meetings where representatives from companies like Audi always attend. So Tesla, I think you're missing out here. These taxi associations meet all over the world. They're getting information from ICE dealers. They should be hearing from you to let them know
this is interesting.
The benefits.
I would have, I guess if I had really thought about it, I would have maybe put together that there could be a taxi association meeting, but it's not the sort of thing that you'd be like, oh, of course, the taxi association meetings, I go to them all the time.
But, it's a huge opportunity. When Jesse and I get into taxis or Ubers, we always talk to the drivers about, hey, what do you know about Teslas? Because, a lot of them are driving what they think is the best car, like a Prius usually.
Right.
But they really don't know everything about the new Model 3. It's so new. So if you talk to them next time you're hopping a ride, you might change your mind, or it might at least get the ball rolling.
Right. And I think that it shows an opportunity for Tesla to market to these people, to market to Uber drivers, to market to taxi drivers, to be like, hey, a Prius, yes, you might save money on fuel and stuff like that, but in terms of maintenance
Exactly.
and fuel, you're still going to save more money by switching to a Tesla. And like, oh, it's safer. You're driving around all day, literally all day.
I know, it's
if
your
you get
life.
into an accident, do you want to be dead or do you want to not be dead? Like, how much is that worth to you? And also, someday maybe you can just kind of retire and let the car drive for you.
Exactly. Our friend Werner reached out during our Euro road trip to tell us that Zurich has had electric buses for 80 years and that the goal is to replace the remaining 150 diesel buses by 2030. And then our friend Ian in the UK let us know about this place called Palais Hall, which is a grand historic house and hotel on the edge of Snowdonia in Wales. What makes them special for us EV enthusiasts is that they have 4 EV ChargeMaster chargers that they just installed, and those are fully powered by water.
You can't pour water into the thing.
No, they know that. Yeah, it's water turbines that are up behind the hotel, and they are powering these. It's a mountain stream, and it powers the chargers. Look how beautiful that is. Wouldn't it be great to go someplace like that and charge your car?
Yeah.
Open to the public. And our friend, the Jedi Will One on Discord, shared these photos. He said, my son wanted to play in the car before bedtime. Now,
Wow.
What other car company makes a car that kids want to spend some time in creating before bedtime?
All right, it's time for our on-air question of the week. Usually we like to have someone on air with us. Unfortunately, no one was able to get on air with us and talk about their question of the week. But luckily, they posted them in Discord, so we're actually able to talk about them. They just won't be able to say, but Jesse and Zach, you guys were wrong. You didn't answer my question at all.
All right, so this is from B. Azel, and he says, Tesla should do a commercial, but one that explains the advantages of full self-driving and how it will help decrease accidents, and accidents where someone dies because of negligence of a driver, either from using their phone, drinking, or not paying attention to the road.
I think that this is really a good point. Now, when we say commercial, I'm not sure exactly, because, obviously Tesla doesn't do commercials. When we're talking about just marketing material, even if it's just a Twitter video, right, because that's free. Yeah, I think that would be really smart.
I have an idea.
Yeah?
I think Elon should do kind of what they do with white hat hackers. They offer a car to the best hacker. I think they should offer a car, Model 3 or something, to the best film director, producer, writer who makes commercials for them, kind of like they did before. They did a contest for making a commercial, but there was no real prize before.
True.
If you offered a car, I think a lot of film students out there, and even some bigger Hollywood people would jump at it. And what's the chance that Tesla's going to be able to make the best ad themselves? You know what I mean? Because that's not what they're good at. They're good at making all these other things. I think let the world's creativity flow and see what you come up with. What I like about the contest idea, at least when it was done before, is that we want to watch all of them to see which one's best, and so you almost get a multiplier effect.
Well, but that's within the community.
Yeah,
not outside the community. I think that a really good grabbing ad, and you're right, the best one would definitely rise to the top. But yeah, I think anything like that to show how it would work would definitely be a great idea, and I think it should be something that's on the horizon.
All right, Jesse, it's time for a new segment that we're going to do called Good News, Bad News. Now, you knew nothing about this, so this is just new to you. Your only job in this segment is to choose whether you want the bad news first or the good news first.
I'm going to have to go with the bad news.
Okay, so the bad news is, according to Nature Communications, melting permafrost in the Arctic will accelerate warming as it releases carbon and methane, and the effects could cost the global economy up to $69 trillion. Even limiting the total temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius would cost the world about $25 trillion. And Russian biologist Boris Zhukov wrote an article for the New York Times, "The Ice Will Melt and We Will All Die." That was the title of his article. And that says that basically the permafrost will release bacteria that may lead to diseases which could become epidemics. So that was the bad news, but I guess you want the good news next.
It better be some really good news.
I don't know if it's going to balance that. But UK Environment Secretary Michael Gove has pledged tougher action on climate change after hearing a speech by 16-year-old climate activist Greta Thunberg. Gove said, "As I listened to you, I felt great admiration, but also a sense of responsibility and guilt, because I recognize I am of your parents' generation. I recognize we have not done nearly enough to deal with the problem of climate change." Now, I know that probably can't make up for the first bad news, but if someone like Greta Thunberg can make this kind of difference, it really does give me hope that maybe we can get through to our leaders, we can get through to the decision makers and start making a difference. That's at least, I hope, the silver lining of that.
Interesting. And I mean, just to think for a minute that, like, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, she's a 16-year-old girl with autism from Sweden. Right. Does that make her better at telling that?
Right.
At doing anything?
I think she's fearless.
If you're a 45-year-old man from Illinois, does that mean that you're somehow not able to do this?
Right.
I mean, yeah, sure, you don't have the whole, like, I'm a kid and you guys screwed it up for me kind of thing, but you can still make a huge difference.
Right.
I mean, she can't even drive a car yet.
Right. I know. She started a global movement.
Right.
All right, it's time for Supercharger reviews. What do we got this week, people? Take it away.
Hey, Zach and Jesse, Will from All Electric. Just picked up my new Model 3 and had to stop in the Charlottesville Supercharger. I would give this Supercharger a number 8. It's a little bit off the highway, but it has great shops that you can stop at, so you can go grab a bite to eat. There's also a hotel that it's kind of attached to the Hyatt that has free Wi-Fi and restrooms.
Hey, Zach and Jesse, we are at Seaside, Florida, destination charger. We've got 2 Tesla destination chargers with prime location here at Seaside. This town is incredible. It is shops and food and vendors, live entertainment down there on the lawn, people everywhere. These spots are the number 1 spots in the whole place, right in the center of everything. Could not be better. We're getting a full charge while we're here. Seaside, Florida.
Hey, Zach and Jesse. This is Tom over at the Lodge at Torrey Pines in San Diego, California. I am at their charger here. They have 3 chargers. I am on the 4th level. There are 2 here. One is a standard one is a Tesla charger. And then there's one on the 2nd floor. They're not, as far as the parking lot goes, they're not super convenient. They are in between the stairs way down there and the elevator and stairs way down there. So it's a little bit of a walk, but it's nice that they have it here. There is a Supercharger station probably about 4 miles away, but if you're staying at the hotel or you're golfing at the golf course, then this is perfect. The parking is a little bit much. It's $30 a day, but that, you know, if you're a guest here, you really don't have much choice. So I would give this a 7 out of 10 just because of its convenience while you're staying at the hotel. And now you know. Thank you.
How cool is that? People from around the world
Yeah.
send in reviews of Superchargers. We get to put them on a big map, and then you can go check out the map if you're making a Supercharger drive, or you just like want to visit a Supercharger, and you're like,
Yeah.
what's a nice Supercharger in my area?
We're the only place that we know of in the whole internet that has this map where you can go and check out video reviews
Right.
of Superchargers. I love it. Keep doing it. All right, what do we got for new Superchargers in the world?
We have a 12-stall in Marlton, New Jersey.
We have a 22-stall urban in Vancouver at Pacific Center, British Columbia.
And number 634 in the United States, and 1,521 in the world is the 8-stall urban supercharger in Boston at the Richard B. Ross Way in Massachusetts.
Yeah, that's right down the street from Fenway Park.
Nice.
Next time you're going to a game, get you
Park the car in Richard B. Ross Way, urban supercharger.
Get your hot dogs
now, wait,
here.
Now, wait a minute. Is this another one of the superchargers we have to pay to park?
Yes, it's $7 for the first half hour.
Why can't they find any place in Boston to have superchargers that...
I think because
Aren't
there
payable.
is no parking in the whole city of Boston that doesn't cost money. All right, it's time for BFREE. We're up to about 125 businesses from around the world, Jesse. Isn't that cool? This one is from United Panel Cleaners. It's a residential and commercial solar panel cleaning company with great rates and fast, efficient service. You can get 20% off if you're an Elon employee from their residential or commercial solar panel cleaning service within 25 miles of downtown LA. And we know there's lots of Elon employees there.
And a lot of solar panels.
That's right. They need cleaning. They don't work efficiently unless they're clean. Normally we talk about a past video of ours, but I want to talk about a new video of Lil Dicky's. He's got his new song, We Love the Earth. And I mean, this is not appropriate for all people, so make sure you check it out first before you show it to your family. But it is approved by Leo DiCaprio, so go check it out. I think it's a fun, cool way to introduce this topic to kids who may not be, and people who may not be like into it.
Yeah.
All right, it's time for our Patreon giveaway. Let's see. Now, we didn't bring our big whirly thing of fun on the trip with us, but we got it here in the studio. We're going to be giving away EcoWear t-shirts, so you can go, the winner's going to get to go to EcoWear and pick out any t-shirt they want. Jesse's wearing one, I'm wearing one. Cool company because it's designed with solar energy, completely carbon offset from production and delivery to the end of life of your garment. Help support our show, spread the word with ecoware.us, and there's a link right below this video so you don't even have to stop watching to buy. So who's the winner this week, Jesse?
We have Edward Martinez.
Edward, you are the lucky winner. You're going to get to pick out an EcoWear t-shirt of your choice. Thank you so much for being a Patreon. And you made it to the end of the show.
Woohoo!
Right, that was a long one.
That was a long one. Thank you.
All these names that you're seeing are the people we seriously need to thank the most because these are people who gave $5 or more a month. The big names gave even more.
Right.
So if you want to be on that list, sign up to be a $5 or more Patreon, and you will get on that endplate list where forever you'll be immortalized, on the interwebs.
And thank you for sticking with us for this past month. I know it's been very hectic for the both of us. We've been thousands of miles away from each other, so communication even just between us
but
has
I
been.
think we've been learning a lot.
Have we?
Yeah. You haven't?
Yes, we have. To not do that again. That was terrible.
That was awesome. What are you talking about?
Oh, I get to go hang out with all these cool, awesome people doing all sorts of cool, awesome stuff. Meanwhile, I have to drive down to New York in a day and drive back, and
Excuse me, you're leaving out the part where you met with the CEO of Rivian.
And you're leaving out the part where I had to walk back to my car in the rain. I had to walk 4 blocks in the pouring rain.
4 blocks?
With no umbrella.
Oh my God. I didn't arrange for the weather.
I know,
I didn't arrange for
but
you to
hey,
not bring an umbrella.
It didn't say it was not going to rain.
Okay.
And then I had to drive home, then I had to take a plane, then I had to...
Oh my God, that's so tough. I'm so sorry.
You got to... Oh, hi, I'm here in Europe. Let me look at this. I'm here at the story.
It took a lot of work to make that happen.
Uh-huh, yeah.
It did.
Yeah.
I even made the Rivian event happen, so it takes a lot of work to plan these things.
Sure.
And if you want to support the show and you maybe can't do Patreon or Patreon at that level, if you're buying stuff on Amazon, we earn money from qualifying purchases, so you can use the links down below to buy stuff on Amazon. That's a pretty cool way to support the show. Oh, and I always forget that we are a podcast. So you might be watching now and going, I can't really watch you guys.
Right. I've been
I gotta
holding
work.
my phone
Right.
for an hour and my arm is going to fall off.
You can listen as a podcast.
Yeah.
We're on Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, TuneIn, like all those places. So you can listen in the car, listen in the shower.
I will say, though, if you are listening on a podcast right now, that you probably have missed out on some pretty funny editing that the boys spend a lot of time doing every week.
Right.
So
But if
it's not the optimal way to listen to the show, but obviously the show comes out every week. It's like an hour long.
Now, when RoboTaxis happen, you'll be able to just sit in your commute or whatever in RoboTaxi, and that'll be perfect.
It'll be on the Model 3 screen.
I think
hopefully.
we're very well positioned for when RoboTaxis.
Excellent. Our whole business strategy has been revolving around this.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you so much for watching the show. If you watched all the way to the end, please consider hitting the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. It just means that another little number goes up, tick, on our subscriber number thing, and that means that when we call up places and we're like, hey, we want to talk to you about your product, they're going to go, oh, okay, sure.
I mean, I call places to talk to people every week and trying to get you the news, right? Trying to get interviews and stuff like that, and that number does make a big difference.
Right. We just hit 100,000 subscribers, and that number is a pretty hefty number to be like, chunk, hey.
Do you remember when we hit 5,000
and we were
just
like
jumping up
let's
and down?
contact Elon, and he was like, no, he didn't say anything because we didn't get anywhere close to him.
Yeah. So thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
It's awesome.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much for watching.
Now you
Now
know.
you know.